So you're in year 12, summer's approaching, and you want to apply to medicine. So you know as well as anyone that you're going to have to start thinking about your personal statement, especially with the deadline for medical applicants being a lot closer than for other degrees. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Jack and I'm a first year medical student studying at UCL. And in this video, I'm going to talk through some of the things I think you should consider when it comes to starting the journey of writing your personal statement. It's quite a daunting journey, there's a lot of things to consider, but hopefully after this video you feel a lot more comfortable with it and a lot more confident. As usual, if you find this video useful, then like, comment, subscribe, do all of that. And without wasting any more time, let's get into the video. Step one is to make a journal. Now this sounds really simple, but I genuinely think it's the most important thing to do when you're starting to think about your personal statement. In fact, you can even start doing it before you've even put pen to paper with regards to typing up the personal statement. When I say keep a journal, it just means to document all the things you're doing, even if it's a small bit of work experience here or there or a little activity that you're doing. Keep a note of it, because you would be surprised just how many things you will forget when it comes to actually writing your personal statement. A lot of people I tell this to kind of tell me that they think they'll be fine and they won't forget the important things. But I've literally had conversations with people like this where in the conversation they suddenly remember something huge that they've done that they completely forgot about. In fact, I've kind of spoken to students who mid-conversation they'll remember things like the fact that they've done Duke of Edinburgh, or that they've done this big bit of work experience that they've somehow totally forgotten about. Now this isn't your fault, this doesn't mean you have a bad memory, but it's just human nature. Even when I was writing my personal statement, I forgot about things, but thankfully I had this journal of things that I'd just written down, things that I'd done. Didn't have to be complicated, could literally just be kind of like a date and then talking about a work experience. And if you wanted to go a bit above and beyond, you could even reflect on the work experience, so when it came to writing your personal statement you could remember some key memories or key moments from it. But please keep a journal. Your brain is really good at making ideas, of thinking about things, but it's not that good at remembering them. So kind of take that effort out and just make your life a bit easier when you do start writing it. Now the good thing about this journal is you can start doing it from whenever. So even if you're someone who's not planning to write their personal statement straight away, maybe you're a bit younger and you're not at that point, you can still start making a journal, and in fact I highly recommend it. Tip number 2 is to look for work experience before summer starts. Now the phrasing of this is very important. Look for it before summer starts. A lot of people make the mistake of looking for work experience once summer begins. I've talked to a lot of people and they've said, I'll send out the emails once summer comes around, or I'll go around asking for it as soon as summer comes around. And it's understandable to an extent. You've probably got mock exams that you're worrying about, and obviously your predicted grades are very important. But I think the issue with waiting till summer is you're not accounting for the time that it will take to actually find work experience. A lot of people kind of think, oh, as soon as summer starts, I will start my work experience. But then you have to account for the fact that it will take time, and in a lot of cases it can take a bit longer than you'd expect to actually secure that work experience. You've got to remember, medicine is really competitive and a lot of people are going to be searching for work experience opportunities. A lot of people leave it till summer, they realize it takes a lot longer than they anticipated, and then they get really busy with other things. And it doesn't mean they're lazy, it just means that there's a lot of things to consider. Like for example, especially during year 12 summer, a lot of people are practicing for their UCAT exam, or they might be practicing for upcoming mocks, and all these things kind of build up, pile up, and take up a lot of their time. However, if you look for work experience before summer, then chances are that you'll be able to secure it before summer has even come around. And what I'd recommend you do is kind of organize it, go through all the effort of looking for it, and then kind of schedule it for summer. So ask the consultant or doctor or whoever you're planning to do work experience with if they can do it during summer. And that will mean that as summer comes around, you've just got one less thing to worry about. And especially if you can get that work experience out right at the beginning, when the UCAT stress comes up or when the mock exam stress comes up, you'll be kind of less tied to what you can do, and you'll have more things to kind of focus on. Anything you can do to kind of reduce the stress of the entire process is very much welcome. So make sure you're kind of taking the initiative, because a lot of people won't. A lot of people will wait till summer. But if you're that one aspiring medical student who decides to kind of sort that all out before summer, then you'll definitely be at an advantage. Tip number 3 is to start off small. A lot of people don't realize how long a process the personal statement actually is. It's not something that you'll just write overnight, and it is a long process. It takes a while. And so a lot of people kind of get disheartened when they sit down and they kind of try to write everything at once and they can't. It's quite difficult when you've got so many things you want to talk about and such a limited number of characters. What I recommend to a lot of people, and it kind of links back to that whole tip I gave at the start about journaling, is to take all your experiences and just turn it into bullet points. Don't worry about writing it out. Just kind of have a bullet point list of all the things you want to talk about. I would then, and what I personally did, was start to kind of order them in terms of importance. So I had a few things that I really wanted to talk about, such as recent work experience and also, my part-time job. And there were just some things that I had on my bullet point list that maybe were a bit outdated. So for example, my roles in student leadership in like year 7 to 10, for example, which I didn't want to be the forefront of my personal statement, but was just there in case I needed more things to talk about. And so it would kind of be like the priority lies on the most important things, which logically makes the most sense. And then the least important things were kind of there as a safety net just in case, which ideally you will hopefully not need to use. If you start off with this bullet point list, then come kind of the start of year 13 when you're really starting to beef up the personal statement, rather than starting from a blank canvas, you have these bullet points to work off and kind of convert into paragraphs, and then you can kind of go on to making it a bit more fleshed out and a bit nicer. Now, if you check out my channel, I do have a video going through how to write a compelling personal statement. I'll put it somewhere on the screen right now. I wouldn't recommend watching this as someone who just started summer in year 12, but I definitely recommend, bookmark that video. And when it comes to actually beefing up your personal statement, it's a video I can highly recommend. I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I feel like there's a lot of good information and advice in that video. Tip number 4 is also kind of linked to what you might want to start thinking about a bit later on in the summer, but it's to look at example personal statements, especially of medical students. Even if there's a long way to go before your end product, it really helps to look at example personal statements where you can get some sort of inspiration or idea about how to lay out your personal statement. I think one of the biggest reality checks when it comes to personal statements is it's kind of unlike anything else you've written before. The character limit and kind of the necessity to condense everything down makes it very difficult. When you're doing your GCSE English or whatever, you're kind of taught to make your language sophisticated, use all these big extravagant words. But with the character limit, you're kind of capped off and limited to how much you can kind of do that. And so you're kind of reteaching yourself how to write, essentially. So definitely reading a few example personal statements, at least for me, kind of gave me some clarity over how my personal statement should sound. Because initially, when you condense everything down, you look at it and you just think, this doesn't sound right. And then you read a few example personal statements and you kind of get reassured that, you're on the right track, that personal statement is meant to sound a bit more condensed, a bit shorter. Obviously, this advice you need to be careful with because if you take too much inspiration, then you can get in trouble. Always remember, accidental plagiarism is still plagiarism. It doesn't matter if it wasn't intentional, and you might find yourself overly inspired by a personal statement without even realizing. So be careful of that. If you are interested in my medical school personal statement that got me offers for interviews at St. George's and UCL, I'll leave a link in the description to a video where I actually go through my personal statement, and I'll probably put a pop-up somewhere on the screen right now. Tip number 5 is to be open to adding things to your personal statement. Once August kind of comes around and your summer starts, you've got a whole month of free time. Obviously, it's a bit subjective. Like I said, you've got other things to worry about, but you really don't want to let this free time go to waste. A lot of people are kind of on the fence about doing new things for their personal statement, but I highly recommend it. I know a lot of people when I was writing my personal statement who were really stressed out about the fact that they had nothing to write, but then when you looked at the time frame, they had like another 6 months left till their personal statement. had to be submitted, and a lot of people forget just how much time that really is. Even if you just have like a few months, like from summer starting, it's about 3 months before you submit your personal statement. So don't be afraid to organize things to do. 3 months is a lot of time, and you really want to make the most of it. If you're someone who feels like they don't have enough things to talk about, then do things. Make sure you build up that portfolio, and obviously keep a journal of it all. But don't be afraid to expand your kind of your portfolio, the things you're doing, and really develop things so that when you write your personal statement, you won't be stuck on not having enough things to talk about. And the last tip is an obvious one, but I think it's worth mentioning because a lot of people can take this summer holiday for granted, and it's to not leave things too late. Especially at the start of the summer, you're going to feel like really liberated, really free, and you've got all this free time and you're finally away from exams, and it's good to enjoy that, but also understand that you're going to be busier than most people during this summer, and is kind of just the sad reality of it. Obviously it can be a bit of a fun process. A lot of people are really passionate about medicine, and so don't mind putting in that extra effort. But the reality is, especially near the second half of your summer, and this is something I've been reiterating throughout this entire video, is the fact that you're going to be busy, whether it's with UCAT or whether it's with mock exams. These things are going to keep you occupied. And I'm probably going to make a video a bit later on about kind of the realities of year 12 summer, not just about the personal statement, but just about all the things you're going to have to expect if you're a medical applicant. So look out for that video in the near future. But essentially, don't leave things too late. Don't take the time for granted, because before you know it, your year 12 summer is going to be really, really busy. And then once year 13 starts, even though the deadline is in October, you're definitely going to feel the workload of A-levels coming into play. So keep that in mind, and have that in the back of your head when you're thinking about the time you have and the things you need to do. Unfortunately, a few more sacrifices will have to be made, but in the future, when you're in medical school, you're going to look back and you're definitely going to be grateful you made those extra sacrifices and did the things you needed to do. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. So if you found the video useful, informative, or enjoyed it in any way, like, comment, subscribe, as it helps the channel out a lot. Definitely look forward to more videos in the future about general studying, and also tailored towards year 12 students who are thinking of applying to medical school. But yeah, that's been all from me. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Goodbye.